This is from the south. My name is Reagan Devines here in Caracas, Venezuela. Startling developments here. A police helicopter was stolen on Tuesday in Caracas. It was flown to the Supreme Court, dropping 4 grenades and firing at least 15 rounds of ammunition at the Interior Ministry a short time before. The helicopter was stolen from the Scientific Penal and Criminal Investigations Agency there by a man identified as Oscar Alberto Perez. A banner was hung from the helicopter that read 350 Libertad, which is in reference to Article 350 of the Bolivarian Constitution that opposition forces are attempting to invoke to stop the National Constituent Assembly. The government has called it an act of terrorism.
What I want you to understand is that there is a campaign of hostility against Venezuela, and the best evidence of this is what is happening today. They don't care about Venezuelan men, women, or children. When a man declares himself a warrior of God and throws grenades in the center of the capital from a helicopter and flees, they still won't recognize the act.
In Colombia, the FARC and the government have officially ended over 50 years of armed conflict as the rebel group turned in the last of their weapons on Tuesday. The move has now paved the way for the group to enter into the political arena, as they had previously suggested. The 7,000 plus weapons will be stored in containers until they are molded into a monument for peace. President Juan Manuel Santos, who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for having led the peace deal, expressed his satisfaction with the developments.
Today, with excitement, we mark the end of this absurd war, which not only lasted over 5 decades, but something worse. It lasted more than 8 million victims and more than 20,000 compatriots who have died.
New Zealand's Foreign Minister Jerry Brownlee met on Tuesday with his Cuban counterpart Bruno Rodriguez in an official visit to Havana to boost bilateral ties. Both countries have already cooperated on a series of ventures relating to the agricultural sector, and recently Cuba announced its support for New Zealand to secure a spot in the UN Security Council. New Zealand does not take part in the US embargo of Cuba. Former governor of the Mexican state of Veracruz, Javier Duarte, has accepted extradition to Mexico from Guatemala. Duarte is wanted on charges of embezzlement and organized crime in his homeland. He was arrested in Guatemala in April and has denied any wrongdoing. Thousands of protesters took to the streets of Buenos Aires on Tuesday to demand salary increases. The protesters marched to the Ministry of Labour, where the minimum wage council was due to take place. Since Monday night, hundreds of protesters have been camping outside the ministry. Protesters called on the government to implement the social emergency law. Syria's government has denied the US administration's allegation that it is preparing for another chemical weapons attack. On Tuesday, the Pentagon said the activities looking like active preparations for a chemical attack had been seen at Al-Sharat. In response, the Minister of National Reconciliation of Syria said the US allegation is unacceptable and that the Syrian government has no chemical weapons. Greek garbage collectors have continued a nationwide strike to demand more job security. As a result, huge piles of decaying trash are mounting across Greece, sparking concerns over a health hazard. The union wants contract workers to be given permanency, fearing job losses. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags have been raised on a permanent basis at Sydney, Australia's Government House in support of national reconciliation. The event was significant, especially in the year of the 50th anniversary of the 1967 referendum, when Aborigines began to be included in population census figures, according to the Governor of New South Wales. And finally, in sports, where in the UK 6 people have been charged over the 1989 Hillsborough Stadium disaster that killed 96 people. 6 men, including 4 former senior police officers, are the ones facing the charges for the UK's most deadly sporting disaster. Police at first blamed the tragedy on drunken fans, but this explanation was always rejected by the families of the victims and the wider Liverpool community. relatives spent decades campaigning for justice for the 96. There is more on these and other stories on our website, telesurtv.net/English. For telesur English, I'm Regan David.